G'day folks, welcome to the Buddez podcast. I've always been curious about how to get a lot more reviews and engagement from customers and potential customers for my product, to get feedback on the product and service, and also to get an understanding of how customers are experiencing it right now. And that's why I was interested to talk with Adriana Brusi, who is the founder and managing director of Crowds Now, which outsource crowds or groups to review and experience your product or your service. And if you're a business, you can find people to do this for you. If you're someone that likes reviewing content, this would also be interesting too. So I was very curious to learn about this because I know that Adriana has an outstanding business and marketing pedigree, from being the youngest director in Hong Kong when she was only 16 years old, when she started her own business, right through to the successful business she founded and runs now, Crowds Now. So I was curious to learn more about Adriana, as you will too. Let's say g'day to Adriana. So welcome to the Buddez podcast, Adriana. I'm just really curious. I noticed that you were the youngest director in Hong Kong when you were 16. What was that all about?
Yeah, I was doing a lot of work where I was finding a lot of, especially young kids, were, getting impacted by low self-esteem. And I decided to start a company, I guess, in the entertainment area and rallying schools together. We didn't have anything in Hong Kong like the Rockets Edford. So I kind of started working first with schools, and the motivation behind that was no one got turned away from a performance-based industry. So if you wanted to perform, whether that was just standing on stage and being a treat, whether it was in the music, whether it was designing, lighting and sound, it didn't matter what it was. If you wanted to contribute in some way to put on a show, we said yes. We would find something. We believed every child had something that they could contribute and do. And there was this incredible woman called Lindsay McAllister, who was part of the Youth Arts Initiative, and she supported what I was doing and facilitated and essentially gave me a grant. And that expanded, and I started not just working with kids in school, but also facilitating and working with kids on the street. Then from there, started contacting colleges internationally to facilitate scholarships. And that's where that would sort of, I guess, expand.
So it's life-changing for those kids, right? Like when they're 16, it changes their life. It makes them feel better about themselves because they're performing or being up on a stage. They have a lot more confidence, and you're also translating that into educational opportunities as well for them.
Yeah. So I think, you have the kind of like your High School Musical, right? So you have these kids that they were going and auditioning and they were getting turned away. So their self-belief was that they weren't good enough, which is not necessarily the case, right? Because it's out of whatever lens whoever's auditioning them to look out of. And it's not life. It's a high school performance. And I was one of them. I just kept getting told. And back then, my vision was I wanted to initially go to NIDA. That was what I thought I wanted to do back then. And I got tired of being told I wasn't good. And I thought I was exceptional. So I was doing a number of other things. And I think you believe what you're told, right? So if you're being told by teachers in a particular remit that you should find a different discipline because you're not good, that can eat away at you. And we hear these stories when we see kids that turn up on, Australia's Got Talent or The Voice, these different shows that have repeatedly been told, you're not good, don't come. And then you'll hear judges that are actually worldwide talent that have gone, where have you been? And you'll hear the dialogue come from these kids going, I was told I was garbage. And they will say, I don't know who told you that, but it's not true. And some of that dialogue's just being formed out of an aesthetic. It's not even out of a genuine talent. So I think a lot of where I was driving from was I just wanted to give a lot of these kids an opportunity to just have a place. And so that was really heavily supported. And it felt good to be able to do something to make these kids feel good. And so that's where that was, driven out of.
It sounds like, looking through your career, as I have before I met you today, it just seems like you've got this unique ability to translate an idea or a passion into a business or into entrepreneurship. Because a lot of people have got one or the other. They're either great entrepreneurs with somebody else's idea, or they've got great ideas that they really can't launch. And you seem to manage to do both because you did it with the kids. You then had worked in hospitality too. Is that right?
Correct. So one of my first jobs, so even going back even before that, often our parents give us pocket money for little
Yeah.
things. That's where you start. Your parents will give you your first $10, whatever that's driven by, right? You start doing little chores around the house. And when I was I think it was about 13 or 14, and you're getting your $10 or whatever that nominal amount is. And then I had to explain what I spent my money on. And I didn't want to explain what I spent my money on. I remember, asking my mum, well, how do I get to a place where I don't need to justify or come back to you and say, this is what I've been spending my 10, 15, $20, whatever it is. And she went, get a job, go out and get your own job. And when you earn your own money, notwithstanding things like obviously that you're not supposed to be doing wrong with money, you don't need to justify every dollar out. But whilst it's my money that I'm giving you, you will tell me what you spent it on. So I went out and, whilst my friends were doing other things on the weekend, and obviously as well, I was training quite significantly back then because, like we discussed earlier, I was an elite swimmer. So a lot of my time was also spent training, between 30 to 40 hours a week post school, in the early hours of the morning and school as well. So I didn't have significant amount of time anyway, but in the in between, there was a five-star fish and chip restaurant called Harry Ramsden that opened in Hong Kong. And
Yeah.
so I convinced them to let me be a host at the front door. So I was, when people came in, showing them the menu, taking them to their seats. So
Hmm.
that also cultivated just a level of confidence and convincing them to, I guess a little bit of the power of persuasion to dine there. And then later on was Birkenstock in a children's shoe store. So there were certain
Yeah.
skill sets I would acquire along the way there as well. And even literal ones too, just about understanding sales that didn't seem so significant. But it was even where you give people too many choices and they make none. So you never
Yes.
present them like in a shoe store with more than two at a time. So even if they ask for a third, you need to give them an option to remove one of them. Otherwise, if they have
There's
three,
too much choice. Yes.
correct.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
They were
Okay.
early things I learnt fast, as well as knowing that I was now earning money that I could save. And when you actually do that early on, your understanding of money and what you choose to spend it on, because when it's not yours, you're a little bit more fickle because it's not yours. So you haven't earned it. So you don't
Mm-mm,
really care. So
mm,
you'll
mm,
buy things because you have no comprehension. All of a
mm.
sudden, when it's mine and I've had to earn it, and you get your first paycheck, and then, even if it's whether it's a piece of stationery or a toy, and I'm saying that from a child's mind, teen mind, makeup,
Mm.
whatever it is. And then you have this understanding of, I just had to work like 3 months. I'm not buying that anymore.
Yeah.
You think you want it, but you don't because
Yeah.
it's not as important as the amount of hours I just had to put in to get that.
Mm.
Something I drill in with my own children.
Yes. It sounds like bringing people together. Like I'm thinking of you outside that fish and chip restaurant, like bringing people in and encouraging them to enjoy the experience of being in that restaurant. That's similar to a hospitality vibe, isn't it? Where you're making a venue somewhere which is hospitable or enjoyable or preferential to somewhere else I might go. Like if I'm thinking about having a meal, there's lots of different options I've got, right? And you were helping me choose that option as my preference, if you like.
Sure. Well, I think a lot of people, the food's like actually the last part, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know people often associate a restaurant, we're going out for the meal. The food, we're in a saturated space. You've got at the end of the day, it's actually a venue, right? So it's the speed, it's the service, it's the environment, it's the social safety. But the food, is a small component of the experience. You want to get the food right, but I can name 100 restaurants where the food is average and the experience and the emotive buy-in is so much higher. And
Mm,
that's the reason that people keep coming back. Now, if you get the food right with all of the other components, you've got a 100% winner. But I know places where I've heard people go, oh my God, that was the best pasta ever. I mean, they could have eaten spaghetti in a can. That's probably better. But the actual ambience and the environment and the
Yeah,
customer
yeah, yeah.
service and the people that got, that's what's actually made the experience. And the food's okay, but because everything else is phenomenal, that's why they keep going back.
Yeah, yeah. That's the difference that makes the difference, right? It's the whole, you could almost think about that as being a brand experience. So that restaurant is a brand, and there's many, many components that are building that brand value and makes it one that I choose over something else. I choose that restaurant experience over a different experience because of that combination of things you just explained. It's not just one thing, is it? It's not just the food. And a lot of entrepreneurs think I'm selling a product, but in many cases, that's not the case. You're selling an experience of a product or an outcome of a product or a whole combination of things of the way I would like to be treated, the way that I want to feel as a result of being in a commercial relationship with you. It's way more than just the product, right?
100%, because you're creating legacy at the end of the day, right? It's what creates that lasting growth. And they also keep showing up consistently, right? No, yeah, and you know what you're getting, at the end of the day. So the
Yeah.
product is just a bypass of that entire experience.
Yes. So tell me about crowds now. Like we fast forward to now. I've never heard of a business idea like this before. So I'm sure the listeners haven't either. I'm teasing them in a way saying, hey, what is this experience? Tell me about crowds now.
Sure. So Crowds Now essentially uses everyday people to elevate and amplify businesses. That's the short and sweet version. So, yeah, I mean, I guess, we need to stop seeing businesses as, solo, but part of a community that changes everything, right? So I think if you've ever lived life, and I'm going to go into sort of two parts. If you've ever lived life as an underdog, right? And I say this from the small business and SME, you know what doesn't work. And I say this even from a personal experience, right? Which is what led to Crowds Now even starting. Okay. So, we've seen the struggle of small businesses. We know what doesn't work. We know the failures, the barriers, the wasted, hopes and spends of, SME, SEO, social media spends, because we've personally lived it, but we've also helped businesses survive and fight through it. I say Crowds Now model, which I'll go into in more detail, but I'm just going to give some context to it. And I'll give you a metaphor that's relatable, right? The same way a woman can understand the blind spots or the pressures of, let's say, masculine norms, not from the outside, but because we live amongst it. The same way, like every day, the same way we can understand that is the same way Crowds Now understands the broken systems in marketing from the inside out. And it's because of that we've changed the trajectory and why we are using everyday people without needing an additional skill set to elevate and amplify businesses so that they can be seen in saturated markets.
Okay. So you work on both ends of the market, if you like. You work with the brand and you work with the crowd, if I call them the people.
Correct.
And you are a market maker. You're bringing the crowds and the brands together. Is that right?
Correct. And don't forget, when businesses thrive, that creates opportunities for everyone,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, yeah. Yes. It creates growth, and growth is good. It employs more people. It means the economy
Correct.
becomes richer, whether the economy is a micro
It
economy in
creates
a particular city or a country or a globe. Yeah, that creates value, which is
It's a
better for
cycle of
everybody.
success, right?
It
Because if
is.
you're
Yes. Yeah.
actually elevating a business, the business then needs further resources. They need more
Yeah. Yeah.
people. So it's that
Yeah.
cycle of success that continues.
Yeah, yeah. It's going to employ people. It's going to get into a bigger office. It's going to buy whatever the the business needs. Buy more computers and more everything. So it's good for right across the board, right? It's good.
Correct. But
Yeah.
what's happening now is, so, just to give you a statistic, right? So Forbes have recently put out a report that 60% of searchers garner no clicks that equate to conversion, none, due to AI generated answers. So your products and services aren't just drowning, they're literally being bypassed, right?
Mm, mm.
So Crowds now focuses on basically giving businesses their actual avatar, not just casting a net open wide into the market. And I think one of the things to be aware of is whether you're a startup or an SME, SEO, SEM, social media, influencers, that's fine if you're an enterprise based business and you have the significant spends, or you can be in a contract for 6 to 12 months with management fees and high level bidding costs are significant. If your cost per click sits at 50 plus, you're going to be having significant cost per click rates plus a management fee. A small business or someone who's in their startup phase who may only have in totality $500 as a marketing, they're going to be sitting there going, how's anyone even going to see me? Right?
Yeah, yeah. And they won't because there'll be a bigger, more wealthy competitor who's going to be buying those eyeballs or buying those clicks
Well,
from
at
you.
best, maybe they get to create a free landing page website. And then what's
Yeah, yeah,
next? So now that's like having a business card that you've given to nobody, right? So
yeah, yeah.
you've got no visibility in a saturated market where even because of the dot-com boom, people registered 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago. So they've already got SEO up on you because just by URL definition, they started a long time ago. So you are fighting an uphill battle. So Crowds now is basically, there's no point paying for the SEO. You're already in a losing place. You're going to pay for sponsored ads. And even then you're going up against people who have much larger spends than you.
Mm.
And even if you had the spend to do it, it's what we say is attention is not intention. And people get really overwhelmed because they look at social media and they go, oh my God, that company's got 80,000, 100,000 followers. Let's say they do. That doesn't mean anything. And even if you see communication, right? Let's say you see engagement. So people are getting really overwhelmed at the moment because they're seeing this dialogue where they're going, oh, well, what's your engagement rate? That doesn't mean there's conversion either, right? Just because there's conversation, if you judge stores, we're seeing major organizations shutting down everywhere, right? That look like they should be very revenue healthy, very profit healthy, okay? Optics don't, mean anything. And people are getting swayed by, we say people are getting swayed by what they see. We know that 3 restaurants in a row, the one that's full, people go, oh, that just must be amazing. I'll go there. The one that's empty could have a Michelin star chef in it. You wouldn't even know because we know people will buy what they see. So we know that there are lots of small businesses that aren't even bothering to start doing any level of marketing because they look at a competitor, or even bothering to start their business because they're looking at a competitor online going 300,000 followers. Means nothing. Could be AI. They see commentary. Could be AI. So where, again,
Yeah.
crowds now are saying, just stop looking. Don't worry about what lane they're in and focus on where you want to go.
So if I'm that small business,
Mhm.
you're giving me your crowd or that audience, if you like. And what do I do with my crowd?
Okay, so first of all, we're about being very niche, right? So number one, we don't care about, I'm going to say the word influencers. Okay.
Okay.
So
Are you
money.
anti-influencer,
I
Adriana?
am, because an influencer are they your buying market?
No, but the influencer might have a great connection with my buying market, for
They
example.
might, but they might not. And you are prepared to drop 5, 10, 20,000 on what might. So we always
Yeah,
say
yeah.
intention's a really good word, right? Like a stalker has good intentions, just ask them. Right. So it doesn't mean it. And the word try, like,
Yeah.
we talk to social media or SEO or SEM companies that don't deliver, but they'll say, I tried. I'm like, oh, that's great. I'd like you to go to a restaurant and just ask the chef to try to make your meal, but don't actually do it.
Yeah. Trying doesn't count. I believe that.
Right.
I like this idea. I like this idea of intention too, because intention seems more active. Because I can be passively watching something, particularly on social. I can be passively scrolling through Instagram, and I might view something for a couple of seconds, and that's regarded as a view, right?
Correct.
And I've got no intention. I've got no desire to purchase from them or to get engaged with them commercially. I'm just scrolling. And you think of the speed of those scrolls, and I could be watching like 50 clips in a 10 minutes. So 50 people think that I'm engaged with them, or I'm interested in their content.
Well, you think of advertising board. So I'm just going to use as an example, a luxury brand, right? I won't name one, but let's do a hypothetical exercise. Let's take a luxury handbag brand, right? Without naming
Yeah.
one, that spends $5 million on advertising billboards globally.
Yeah.
It's a banana figure. So they've cast this net that's huge, big spend, 100 million people walk past it. I would say 80% of the people that walk past it aren't even their buying audience, couldn't even afford to buy one of those handbags, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They have an existing demographic of people that already buy from them. Why aren't they turning them into their brand ambassadors?
Which is what crowds now would do.
Yeah. And not just that, everything's measurable, tangible, not even that. There's no management fees. We're not a SaaS model. The platform is free, right? So this is where people go, wait, hold on a second. What? What's the catch? So when we say, I say this with lots of love and respect, we are in the laziest generation ever. People go, I like to call it the Veruca Salt generation, right? I want it now, right? So.
And I don't want to work for it. I want you to give it to me.
Correct.
I want it now, and I don't want to try hard, and I'm going to take a gap year.
Yeah, so I'd love to work 3 months and be a millionaire. If you could just make that happen for me, I'll be in my bed working in my pajamas. And so we are the business for you. That's exactly what we say. We are for the organization and for the people. So you'll see now, by way of example, individuals are already going into restaurants. What do? You can't go into a restaurant and not see it. They pick up their phone and they take photos of everything they eat, like somehow we're supposed to care about it, except that we do, right? Mm. I mean, you see comedians make jokes going, let's go back to the 80s and walk around someone's house and go, look at my photo album. We never did that then, but yet somehow we're in a generation where that's what we do. So while restaurants are paying huge ad management, huge SEO, in the hope that some kind of lead will drip feed, hopefully from the state or local area that they're in, and it hasn't ended up in Uzbekistan somewhere, right? They're hoping that it will actually mean something. Again, if you can go, okay, it's almost like where recruitment meets not your influencer, your actual avatar, right? So if you are marrying those two, and I was to say, right, we are in, I want to say a specific area, you're in Sydney?
That's right.
Okay, so if you took a local cafe in Potts Point, right, and you were saying, because a cafe is what, 30 seater, 60, 80, maybe 150, 200, right, depending. But if you're taking a local cafe, they're not that big. They don't need to market to 200,000 people. They need this many. And then they need a couple of their friends. So let's take one that's a 30 seater. Local cafe, looking for people who love to drink coffee, 10 people, right, who are already there, who already love that local area, right? We are marrying that local market segment with the people that are already there, putting them together and asking them to be their brand ambassador. You are helping everyday people keep lights on and food on the table. We already know the Australian local climate, mortgages.
So you're finding consumers, or when you say brand ambassadors, I'm assuming they're also consumers of my cafe in Potts Point or whatever it is that I'm selling.
Well, they might be, but we don't actually. So everything about what we do is under NDA, right? So we don't name the cafe. You can't see what it is, but the area, right? So buy local, buy area. And that's for a number of different reasons. So Crowdsourcing does not care about notoriety. It's not about us going, look at all, we're not interested. It's not about us. So the platform and the way it works is on the front end, and you can think of it like a job board, but you can only see what the category is. So whether that is a cafe, a hair salon, a tattoo parlor, a station, it doesn't matter, a makeup brand, a finance, it doesn't matter what it is. And again, I know people have gone, you can't do finance. It's you can do it from a customer service perspective. There's always an angle we talk about that, right? You don't have to advocate for the entity as far as you can just talk about the experience. Okay.
Yes.
We understand there are remits in areas. So again, the platform talks to that. But there's always a way. And again, whether it's social, whether it's a Google ad. Now, the other thing as well is this is short term. This is about rocket boosting your brand and getting seen in saturated markets. Okay. So if you get elevation, which you should, you only need to have, a small rocket boost. If your product or service is bad, you'll get
Mm.
elevation in the wrong way. Right.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah,
So
well, a crowd can't help you do that. You'll just get better
well, we
known as
always say to people,
providing poor service.
correct. So if you're a startup and if you've only got $100 or $200 to be able to spend on marketing, you have just as much chance to elevate your product as the person who's got $5,000 because you are in your local area. So you will start off
Yeah,
slow. So you might only be able to bring in 3 to 5 people, but those 3 to 5 people will give you enough revenue to spend 400, and it's gradual and it's small. If you have a superior level of service, and we say be idiosyncratic, which means that fingerprint of excellence, because it is not just about the product. Your product can be good, but your customer service, to be blunt, is crap. You will think
mm,
your product anyway, because people will talk about the experience they had with you. And so many people get this wrong, right? It is about the emotional buy-in. So people will go, oh, I have a cup and the cup is cylinder and it's got a hat. Nobody cares. 500 other products have a cup which has the same thing. Why should someone part with their money and give it to you? And that experiential buy-in, your customer service, even if something goes wrong, how well did you recover? How well did you fix that problem? That's the opportunity. That's the difference. That's why they'll come back to you.
folks, we're just taking a short break from our conversation to remind you that if you're enjoying this podcast content, you'd like more of this type of content and access to great workshops, join the Buddez community at buddez.com. That's the Buddez community at buddez.com. Now let's get back to our conversation. Okay. So what do you think the biggest problem or biggest mistake small businesses are doing now in social media? Like you've mentioned one, which is like over-indexing or overspending on, say, ad spends in a crowded market. What else? What would you say is the biggest mistake they make in your experience?
Think they're focusing on impressions, clicks. They're focusing on the wrong metrics. That's a huge one. What looks good on paper as opposed to what feeds the bottom line. They're getting
Okay.
so focused on how many followers and leads that they have. That's one I see a lot of. Even you can have 3,000 people come into a store and not one buy, or you can get
Mm.
5 and all of them buy. They're equating the wrong metric to conversion. And that's why I said before, attention is not intention and intention is not conversion, right?
Okay.
So stop worrying about, I don't have $3,000 to spend. You don't need that. And crowds now, we always say, if you have 3 friends, you're overqualified. People buy from people they trust.
Yes, yes. People they know, like, and trust. I've got to know you, like you, and trust you. And there's something I want to buy. I might know you and like you, but you're selling handbags. I don't buy handbags. Maybe you know what I mean. It's got to be something that I want, that I want to purchase, and I prefer what you're selling to me because I prefer the way that you're engaging with me. I feel like you understand me. Like you've got a unique understanding of what I'm looking for and how I want to feel.
No, and if you think of SEO, SEM, social media ads, as casting this wide net in the ocean, it's expensive,
Yeah.
unfocused, and the results will be empty. You won't get what you want because you're not actually targeting anyone. If I'm a tattoo parlor and I'm just throwing this big net out, as opposed to what if you could specifically target people who, and I'll give you by way of example and just using that exact, if you could offer something where someone could come in, experience your service, and then get paid. So we call it sampling at scale and social safety. So then you don't have to give them a whole arm sleeve, but they could actually get something and then talk to your service. They become a brand ambassador for you. Now, you might have an existing clientele. The thing with crowds now is it follows that journey the whole way through. Now,
Okay.
I'm going to give a superfluous figure, right? So let's say someone came in and you were offering, I say a tattoo, let's say the size of the palm of your hand, right? That you were going, we're looking for 5 people who are looking to get a tattoo. You're giving that service to them. You're also then offering them $50, $100, whatever that number is, because you as the organization get to dictate that. There obviously is a minimum, right? So people aren't going $2 and something ridiculous. So it's all tracked the whole way through so that the money's held in escrow. And just to explain what that is. It means the organization agrees, let's say $50 by 5 people. So $250 is held in a, let's say, cloud-based entity. If the people who have agreed to whatever it is you set that. So 2 people have to do an Instagram story, 2 people have to do a Google review, and 1 has to do a TikTok. And let's say 4 of them do what they're supposed to, but 1 doesn't. If they don't complete the task, they don't get paid. Okay.
Okay.
So now, not just that, because you've given them something and they haven't delivered, that's technically theft, right? Because you've
Yep.
given them something for free. They will also, depending on the level, and there's different, right? So we have what's called flags. So they can either be suspended for the platform for a month, for 3 months, or permanently, because obviously depending on what the exchange is. And there's even connections with what we have with different degrees where it can be a criminal offense depending on. So there's a number of things there. And we even have different things for different tiers where there's additional NDAs in place for the organizations themselves. Now, on top of our overarching, we say that because for the talent, it's money for jam. You are literally going in and you can be a art gallery reviewer, the ambassador for a nightclub, right? All these different industries that you are doing where you are basically getting to elevate and promote all these businesses, and you're getting to experience all their products, all their services, and you are then, I say, sampling at scale and being a spokesperson for their brand. So if you take advantage of it, there are repercussions for it, as well as not getting paid. So if you want to block yourself from doing all of that, you just have to breach one of the terms. So we will hold people accountable. So marketing is the only space in the world, I say, one of the only spaces in the world where you will be paying for something, and if they don't deliver it, you still have to pay for it, right? Where they can come back, this thing at the beginning where they can go, I'm so sorry, we tried. I know we promised we were going to do this, but by the way, you're locked into a 6-month contract, so you still have to pay us for all the management fees, even though we didn't do anything. You would never walk into a restaurant where the chef went, look, I know I started cooking a steak, but my son's school called and, yeah, sorry about that. By the way, because I started cooking it, you'll have to still pay for it because, when you walked in, by looking in, you cleared a contract. On no other, it doesn't happen anywhere else. But somehow with marketing, SEO, all of these things, you sign a 6-month and they come after you, even though they don't deliver on anything, because there's some caveat that they can just go, yeah, sorry, because of a war happening here and a politician running, we don't have to. It's garbage.
So you are a classic market maker, Adriana. You're bringing together the businesses and the crowd, or the consumers that are going to review the experience or communicate the experience to, I guess, the potential other consumers or potential other customers of the business. You're helping that market grow.
Correct. I'm tired of seeing businesses being taken advantage of where, and like I said, as someone who came from startup and small, an SME myself and have experienced that myself. It's opportunistic. It's unfair. I see the narrative and the dialogue consistently happening, the burn of individuals consistently happening, the blatant disregard for people. And I'm a single mum, right? So there are lots of people, especially in this day, single mums, single dads that are going through where they're keeping, there's mortgages. The tax rate in Australia is struggling a lot at the moment. So you've got companies which are putting everything, like literally their blood, sweat and tears into just trying to make their businesses work. And some of them are doing this as a thing on the side, right? So they've got their day-to-day jobs, which they're doing and, working really hard to do. And then they're trying to do something. And some of them are dual income houses as well as trying to do something because it's their passion and they just genuinely can't get it off the ground. Or you've got the ones that are bricks and mortar where they've got the commercial, mortgages they've got to pay on top of their home. And they are doing everything they can to get, bums on seats, and they don't know what to do and they're devastated. So yeah, I'm trying to create a situation where, to your sentiment early on, where we've got this sort of lazier generation. And I went, well, I know my background from CRMs, the lead generation, what I've been doing for years, even in the event space, and how can I take what I know and do something to cultivate good in society, where it's going to be this well-oiled machine that's going to create something that's going to be really good and cultivate something that's a successful model globally that's going to work really well to help everyday people without needing necessarily an additional skill set, but to earn an income to do what they love and also help businesses to thrive and hence create this successful model.
Wow. Wow. Now, if people are interested in learning more about crowds now, we're going to put your contact details in the show notes of the podcast because it sounds like something a lot of businesses would like to learn a lot more about and how it might apply for them. But for the time being, Adriana, I just wanted to thank you enormously for sharing your expertise on the Buddez podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
There were lots of gems in that conversation with Adriana, weren't there? Some I particularly liked. I like this whole idea of intention over attention. Like, what is the intention of the particular consumer or customer or lead that you have, rather than just getting their attention, translating that attention into an intention to purchase or deepen the relationship with you. I also like this idea of connection over clicks. So rather than judging the success of a campaign over how many clicks or views it gets, but how much of those clicks transfer into something that's really valuable in your business. And you'll see a consistent thread through that conversation, which is all about broadening and deepening the relationship and really understanding what your consumers and potential consumers are looking for. And while I'm talking about looking for, if you're looking for more advice on your social media marketing for your business, definitely check out buddez.com. Join the Buddez community, get lots of great content, lots of great community connection from fellow small business owners growing their business with social media. I'll see you next time on the Buddez podcast.